is Red Hot Reds Live. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Strauss.
Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast. I'm Roger. This is Ricky. It is Wednesday, so it was that special time of the week that we have a special guest, a guest that's here to talk about himself a little bit and to talk about the upcoming series of the Guardians versus the Reds on the weekend that's coming. And what we have today is a special guest, a Cleveland Guardians expert. He's been covering the minor league system for Cleveland baseball since 2007. So this guy knows a lot about Cleveland baseball, which would be great to kind of dig in and figure out, a little bit more about the Guardians' upcoming series and a little bit about Mr. Tito Terry Francona as well. He is also the co-host of the Locked On Guardians podcast and also show on YouTube for the Locked On Network. So we're really appreciative for him making time for us and be able to talk about baseball himself, and also a writer on a Substack, Next Year in Cleveland, where he dives deep into the minor league system of the Cleveland baseball franchise. We thought we were getting Travis Bazzana, but they did. So maybe we got some questions about Mr. Bazzana, Mr. Australia out there, about his baseball future prospects. And we would like you guys to welcome to the show Mr. Justin Lada.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the Ohio Cup. It's always good on the Cleveland side of things. We'll see if Terry Francona is ready to be on the losing side of things in the Ohio Cup for a change.
Yeah, good point about the Ohio Cup. It's something that we don't really think about terribly much, except maybe for jokes here on this side of the competition.
Yeah,
it's all a team at this point.
Yeah, we do appreciate you coming on. We do appreciate you giving us some of your time to talk about some baseball and talk about yourself a little bit. So we do have some, built-in questions that we have. And what is your first or your favorite baseball memory that you have?
The first baseball memory I have, let's see. I went to my first game with my dad in 1995. So that was the first year the Indians made the playoffs since 48. So it had been a long time since I made the playoffs. So obviously that was great. But I was pretty young that year. But I will say my favorite memory has to be, let's go back to 1998. It was the first opening day I went to with my dad. And for whatever reason, I was a huge Jim Thome fan. And for whatever reason that day, I was as a kid, and I said, I think Jim Thome is going to hit a walk-off home run to win the game. And I was just a kid. I didn't know any. I just liked Jim Thome. I thought it was cool. And he ends up doing it. He actually ends up hitting a walk-off home run for the Indians on opening day. Hence, you can see back here my Jim Thome banner back there. I got to go to his Hall of Fame induction out in Cooperstown the year he got in. So, yeah, I would say that might be my favorite memory. I've met him a couple times. Got his autograph with my dad. So, dressed up him as for Halloween one year. Was a very baseball obsessed, Jim Thome obsessed kid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He was a lot of fun to watch. He had amazing power. Like, he was great.
And just one of the most humble guys you'd ever want to meet too. He is just,
I could imagine.
Yeah, great ambassador for the game and doing it the natural way. Like no evidence of being connected to steroids or any of those things, but also just a great humility, just a great family guy overall.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a reformed Chicago fan, so I remember also having some good years for the White Sox as well. So that we appreciate Jim Thome, all his service to the game of baseball. A real standout guy as well. So yeah, that's great memories. So.
Yeah, I don't love that the White Sox have both Jim Thome and Grady Sizemore on the payroll. I have to say, I grew up I was also a big Grady Sizemore fan back in the day. I was a little bit older. And got to be really more involved with baseball when Grady Sizemore was in Cleveland. So having Thome and Sizemore both on the White Sox payroll does, jab a knife at me a little bit, I will say. Yeah,
and he did manage for a little bit at the end of last season after they let go of the manager. And he was in the running, I think, to be full-time manager. So maybe sometime down the road, maybe he'll be Cleveland manager at one point. You never know.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be looking for a manager anytime soon, so we'll see where Grady's career takes him. I think Cleveland's pretty set for at least the near future.
That's fair. Yeah.
Take us back to 2016.
Oh, boy.
Great season. How did it feel having your team being that close to winning a World Series? Roger, you're 39. I'm 33. The Reds haven't won since 1990. I wasn't alive when the Reds won a World Series, and frankly haven't won a playoff series in my lifetime either. And How did it feel just seeing that team on the cusp of something special?
Yeah, it was a really exciting time in Cleveland around then. I mean, the Cavs obviously had won the first championship in Cleveland since 1948. We had the Cleveland Monsters that year, the AHL team that won one at the same time. We had Stipe Miocic, the MMA fighter from here, who had won a heavyweight belt there in the UFC. Like everything was riding high in Cleveland. We up 3-1, and I tried not to get too confident. There were a lot of people out there who were very confident. I just kept saying they got to win one more game. They got to win one more game, and I wasn't doubting, but it was just I was trying to stay even keel because that was as close as they'd been in my lifetime. I mean, '97, I was still kind of a kid too. I'm only 36, so I was pretty young during '97, and I was spoiled as a kid in the '90s watching baseball because Cleveland made the playoffs every year. They made the World Series 2 out of the first 3 years that I was really a baseball fan. And I remember telling my dad, like, he was really upset when they blew it in '97. And I was like, oh, they'll be back, in next year or whatever. I just thought it happened every year. Then it didn't happen again until 2016. And, by the time we got there, I don't think anybody expected it, right? Because you didn't have a lot of your rotation. Like, let's see, they had Carlos Carrasco, who got hit by a liner in his hand, didn't pitch the postseason. Danny Salazar, who had been an all-star, was out with an elbow issue. They were down to very few starters. They didn't have Michael Brantley in their lineup. It was just a very ragtag team by the time the playoffs came around. So after they swept Boston, everyone was surprised. They dominated the Blue Jays. Everyone was surprised. And then to go up on the Cubs 3-1, like I just, never would have dreamed that. But I guess that is nature's retribution for Cleveland, right? They were down 3-1 to the Warriors, and we made all the jokes when the Cavs came back and beat them. They blew a 3-1 lead, and it all came back on us during baseball season. So that darn rain delay, and yeah, it was just amazing to be up 3-1. It definitely felt like it was a fever dream, and it was destiny to happen. And now it's the hard climb to get back there.
Yeah, I think there's one thing we can all agree on is we all hate the Cubs.
Yeah.
It's everybody says this, and most people say this in Cleveland. My wife says it, I say it. It's if Cleveland was not playing the Cubs in the World Series that year, we would have all been rooting for the Cubs to break the curse. Like they would have been, a great story, and they were a great story. I would have been totally fine with them winning the World Series any other year besides playing Cleveland. So they got to break their drought against Cleveland, and now Cleveland's stuck with their drought, and who knows when that's going to end.
Yeah, definitely. Baseball could be cruel that way for sure. I don't know. I'm a White Sox fan. I can't say I was really rooting for the Cubs though.
Yeah, that's fair. At least you've got a World Series, in '05. I always go back and forth about the White Sox thing. Like everyone's always like, "Oh, wouldn't you want to win one World Series?" And who cares what happens after that? I'm like, I don't know. Like the White Sox won a World Series in '05, and they've been irrelevant ever since. As much as I want to see a World Series in Cleveland, like. I also don't want this franchise, and I don't want baseball to be irrelevant for 6 months a year because you tell me what the White Sox are right now, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't ask for a World Series and then become the White Sox the way they are today. Like I just couldn't do it. I like baseball too much to hate it for 6 months of the year just for one World Series 20 years ago. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the age-old question. The age-old question, before 2021, before the Braves won that second World Series after the 90s one they had, would you rather be the Marlins of 2003 and 1997, or would you rather be the Braves winning the division every year but only got one? So it's like, you don't know. But like I said, baseball can be cruel because you'd be in the cellar for a long time, but then finally get your chance. And I don't know. I guess here in Cincinnati, we're still waiting for that one chance.
Yeah, it's been a long time in Cincinnati, unfortunately.
Yeah, but hey, if the Detroit Lions can win a playoff game, Cincinnati Reds can win a playoff game, in my opinion. But anyway, you've been covering the Cincinnati minor league or the Cleveland minor league system, pardon me, since 2007. How did you get started covering the minor league system?
Yeah, so actually, someone who went to my high school a long time before I did, much older gentleman. I just applied to write for his website, and I was lucky enough to get on there. It was a small local website, and got to cover Lake County Captains up here in Cleveland. At the time, we're the low A affiliate, now they're the high A affiliate. Started working there before I was even in college, doing some writing just for free and to get some experience, and got to do some interviews with some players, learned how to work a press box, how to work a clubhouse, all those kinds of things. And then went to college, did more of that. And started, writing for different websites from then on, and just kept evolving into more jobs, thankfully.
Yeah, I see you work also for a newspaper. You still working there at the Herald News?
Yeah, the News Herald, the Morning Journal, their sister paper. Yeah, so actually, that was my first full-time job out of college, was working there covering high school sports. And I actually left there as a full-time writer to move into a marketing role full-time. So baseball media is not my full-time job. So this podcast and writing is all kind of a side gig for me right now. So I still freelance for them, and I cover the Guardians, and I cover their minor league system for them, as well as independently.
All right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is our side gig as well. If you can't tell, we're not full-on professionals like so we're just trying.
We're all in the same boat, man. It's all good.
We appreciate that. Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, you started with that in 07, and then that turns into the Locked On Network. How's that been, and how did that come about?
Yeah, I'm loving it. Locked On Network's great. I mean, it's a great platform to talk about the Guardians every day. It's what I love to do. It's, I love baseball, so it's a lot of fun to have that daily grind of doing a podcast every day, and it can get into the minutia of everything. Like, baseball is a very hard sport to cover on a day-to-day basis in terms of a podcast, because you can't really make a whole lot of inferences about one game. Like, it's all about the big picture, right? It's not like football where every game is like, blown up and you have to analyze every corner of it. So you really have to dig into the minutia of things and try to, look at trends, but it's really fun. It really forces you to dig in and find new angles, and it's a lot of fun. It's a challenge, and it's a lot of fun. But I just, all my writing gigs, I just kept doing stuff on social media, just kept writing. And eventually, a friend of mine was contacted about it and recommended me to the network, and they called me, and everything's been working out ever since. And actually, funny enough, my co-host and I didn't really overlap, but we used to both work for a website called Indians Baseball Insider, or Guardians Baseball Insider. He did their draft stuff, and I became the editor after he left, the full-time editor. And we've been friends since, 2014, 2015, we've been friends, and he was the original host of the podcast. And when they were recruiting me and they told him he was getting a co-host and it was me, he's like, well, you could have asked me, because I've already known him for a decade. So it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out like that. Like, me and Roger, we met through like a local, like, Cincinnati sports media, like, YouTube page, and we just commented in the chat, and then all of a sudden I see him that he writes on Substack, and I started writing for a website, and I was like, hey, maybe we should collab. And then the guy that I write for was like, you guys should do a podcast together. I was like, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
And then we did, and we've been doing it for almost 2 months now, and it's kind of just funny how it takes off.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are doing a good job. I loved your intro. I will say it was very fun intro. A lot of production on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's speaking of minor league system and a guy that, 2024 draft, Reds had the second pick, and everybody was thinking if Charlie Condon goes down or Bazana gets picked, it was between those two. They're thinking that the Reds are going to get, and all of a sudden the Reds do the Reds thing and do a starting pitcher from Wake Forest and get Chase Burns. But that left Travis Bazana to go to you guys at the third pick in 2024. So is he the future of the Guardians? Is he a guy that is going to be a face of the franchise type player, or what's the future hold for Mr. Bazana?
Yeah, so they took him first overall. That was their guy.
Right.
Yeah, they had the first pick, so that was their guy all the way. It was really, there was a lot of negotiation about, like, thinking they were going to go with like JJ Weatherholt and other stuff, but all along I think Bazana and them were just such a perfect match. His work ethic and the drive and the skill set they really desire, and I think that was always a match made in heaven. I do think he is the future of their franchise. I mean, Jose Ramirez is still going to be around until he retires, obviously. He still should have several good years left. Hopefully sometime in the next year or so, Travis Bazana is joining him in the lineup. Unfortunately, Travis Bazana actually left the game on Wednesday with, I don't know what the injury is. It looked like it might have been an oblique or a core muscle issue. But he ran to second base on a double and was kind of like hunched over and looked a little tender in the midsection. So hopefully he's okay and it's nothing big. But yeah, he left Wednesday's game with an injury. So hopefully he's okay. But yeah, he's still got some work to do in the minors. Like he's having some issues hitting lefties. He has a bit of a passive approach to hitting. Is always looking for that perfect pitch. There's a lot of I don't want to compare anybody to Juan Soto because Juan Soto is a generational player and is going to be a Hall of Famer. But there's a little bit of that there where he takes a lot of pitches and he's got to kind of find the right balance between being selective at the plate and also going after the pitches he wants and he can hit. Because I think right now he's kind of looking for the perfect pitch. So those are all things he's working on, and hopefully the injury won't set him back. And I don't see him being up before September of this year, if at all. But we're probably looking more like next season, I would say. But there's still a chance for this season.
Okay, yeah, it was going to be the follow-up question to see if do you think he's major league ready right now? Or, I mean, injury aside, obviously, hopefully that goes well and he can recover quickly. But do you think he's major league ready now?
No. I don't think if they call him up tomorrow, he'd be ready. No, he's still got to work on the approach a little bit. Like I said, he's just a little bit passive right now. He's still working on hitting lefties. He's made a lot of strides defensively. Defense was probably the one area of his game where he was behind in. Some weird throwing motions and some range. Like I don't think he'll ever be like a great defender at second base, but he'll be passable. So he's still working on those things as well. And I have no doubts that he'll work on those things and he'll improve across the board. The work ethic is still there. He's too smart of a player, too driven. But yeah, there are still some things he can work on. I don't think he's by any means a finished product or ready to go right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Reds in Cleveland, they've had some trades over the last probably, if you take it back to like I guess Sean Casey, I guess, but you swap Trevor Bauer. I think Tyler Naquin traded. You guys acquired Puig from us. 2023, we acquired Will Benson from you guys. What was your opinion on Will in the minor leagues, and do you see what potential do you see in him? I'm high on him still. I know he struggled a lot last year. I think he had a lot of games against lefties that he probably shouldn't have played in, but that was just the Reds being inept in filling out a roster and injuries. But what were your thoughts on Will when he was in Cleveland, and what do you think about him now still?
Yeah, I saw a lot of Will when he was actually in the minors. I was lucky enough to be at a game where he had 4 home runs. That was really fun to see. First off, Will's a great kid. If you ever talk to him, he's very humble, down to earth, very well spoken, very smart. When he hit the 4 home runs in the game, I think we asked him to take us through every at bat and all that happened, and he was able to recall like every pitch of every at bat and his approach to there. So very smart guy. Like I said, very intelligent and just very humble and down to earth. So very cool. Unfortunately for Will, like the swing is very long. He's had a lot of mechanical changes to his swing going back to high school. This is a guy who just really has never developed a consistent swing, and he's always tinkered because he's had to, because there's a lot of swing and miss in that game. He's got long levers, great bat speed, very strong, obviously, like tons and tons of power. If it ever came all together for him, he's a guy who's easily a 20-20 player. Has the speed. He's got a great arm in the outfield. I think he can play center probably in that ballpark in Cincinnati because it's a little bit easier to play out there because of the dimensions. I would probably say overall he's better fit in right field, but he's got a great arm. And he could be a good right fielder. There's a lot of people out of high school who wanted to compare him to Jason Hayward, and very, very similar player. But the problem is with Will Benson, it's just a very long swing, and there's a lot of swing and miss in that game, and he's always had to make adjustments. And I think that's the hardest thing for him is catching up to fastballs, adjusting to breaking pitches. So I'd love to see Benson really find an approach and a swing that works for him, because I think if he did, he could draw some walks. He's always going to strike out. The strikeouts are always going to be there. It's never going to go away. But if he's a guy who could draw some walks and hit for some power, steal some bases, play some center, good defensive outfield, he could be a good platoon player in the major leagues, but he's really got to find that consistent swing, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're a pro Will Benson show, and just I've never met him personally, but just based on everything I've seen, whether it be from the Reds broadcast or people on social media or just people in the media talking to him, he seems like such a genuine person. And Reds social media is so divisive on him. They either love him or hate him, and I guess I just don't understand it. I don't know how Cleveland was. I don't know how social media was. What was that, 3 years ago? I guess it'd be similar, but I don't know how Cleveland social media is with their players as opposed to Red social media.
It depends. I mean, social media, unfortunately, is just a very toxic place overall. Uh, I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with it because, people like us, we all use it to promote our work and to share, things like that and try to grow the audience. But at the same time, it can be kind of a messy world. So you got to be careful about how you utilize it. As far as, treating the players, you got your mixed bag like everywhere. Some people are great and some people are just there because they're miserable and they're angry. And the thing with Will is, like, Will was never really up in the majors long enough in Cleveland for most fans to catch on. Like, Cleveland baseball fans who are into the minors and into the whole picture of the organization, it's definitely a unique niche, I will say. It's not like the Red Sox or the Cubs or anything else. Like, this is a very unique niche in Cleveland, covering the baseball team and their minor league system from top to bottom. So, the general population of Cleveland baseball fans didn't really get a lot of exposure to Will, other than they knew he was the first round pick and he was up for a little bit at the end of 2022. But, everyone was well liked, and Cleveland's had a very bad record with the outfield. They traded, you want to go back trades. They traded Sinsu Chu to Cincinnati, remember?
Yeah.
That was the last time they had a really good set right fielder was Sinsu Chu, and exactly. So everybody wants the next guy to be the savior of the outfield, because it just seems like the outfield's been a desolate place for Cleveland. So they were hoping it would be him, but ended up moving on from him and Nolan Jones, Nolan Jones is back now. Those guys were first and second round picks in the same draft class, which is wild.
Yeah, a talking point here in Cincinnati a lot is also how, like, Tito handled the Will Benson situation. I think he got possibly demoted at one point at his time there, and then obviously getting traded some time after that. Like, is there a lot of, was there a lot of talk at that time on, like, that this high prospect first round pick or what have you was kind of like to be that savior, but never worked out for Cleveland?
Not really, because the thing was, obviously people wanted, he was a first round pick, but Will had a long journey to the majors when he got called up. Like, he repeated a couple of levels a couple times. He had to make adjustments. So he had a very long journey. I think the fact that he even made the majors at all, given the journey he was on at points, like, he really struggled to make contact. He had to make a lot of adjustments in his game. So the fact that he actually got to the majors to begin with is a pretty good accomplishment in itself, because sometimes that Georgia area doesn't always produce the best players, and it was a lot of boom or bust potential, and obviously he hasn't really fulfilled the boom, but he got there, which is a good accomplishment. But yeah, it was really more like a September cup of coffee, and like I said, he wasn't really on the roster that long, and it was just it felt like more like they were rewarding him for all the work he had put in, because they went to the playoffs that year. He was on the playoff roster, and then before the next spring training, he was traded to the Reds. So didn't get a long look here in the majors, unfortunately, but he got opportunities when he was up a little bit, and he did some good things in a short time here. But yeah, everybody really liked him in the organization, and I think everybody wanted it to work out. It just, Cleveland hasn't made the best decisions with the outfield either. Could he still be a part of the solution right now? I don't know. Like, I don't know if it would really work here either. It hasn't worked for anybody here in the outfield, truthfully. Like, they have Stephen Kwan, and then everybody else is has been kind of a mystery the last several years. So picking in the first round hasn't also worked out very well for them either.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry. I was gonna say, just like one example of like Red social media is when Ellie De La Cruz last year got off to a slow start. People were demanding him getting sent down to like single A Dayton, and it's like, come on, man. It's like, this guy. And even now, like, he'll strike out, and you'll see on Twitter just, this guy's terrible. We got to trade him while we can. We're not going to extend him. It's like, you have 5 years of team control. Like, let it go.
Yeah, I really hate that conversation around baseball. We get the same thing in Cleveland. Like, shoot, even this offseason, there might be talk about trading Stephen Kwan if they don't extend him. I hate that. I really do. I hate where that's been for baseball. Because Ellie De La Cruz is a guy you do want to sign long term. He is one of the most exciting players in baseball. He is so fun to watch, and he's really fun when he's not playing against your team, I will say. But I mean, talking about a guy who can steal 50 bases and a guy who can hit 30 home runs and is a heck of an athlete at short. I know he's not, always the most consistent defender out there, but he's a great athlete and super fun, someone you can build around. So yeah, I hate that talk, and I hate that for Cincinnati, who has a really rich history of baseball down there. But yeah, that's just it really is an unfortunate reality of where the game is right now, and I guess we'll see what happens on the other side of the lockout after next season. hopefully things will get a little bit better, but I don't have a whole lot of hope for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit same here. It's going to be interesting, the Ellie situation. We're kind of, I guess our approach is that we want to make sure that the 6-year control window, we do something with this team, because I don't know, the Castellinis are not deep in the pockets, but that we could have a whole show about that, to be honest with you. But,
very relatable in Cleveland. Trust me, very relatable. We're very blessed that Jose Ramirez said, that's enough money. I'll stay. The guy loved Cleveland so much that he was like, yeah, I can sacrifice $100 million to stay somewhere I like. Not everybody does that. I mean, we're lucky that we got Jose doing that, and we got Donovan Mitchell for the Cavs, even though the Cavs are out of the playoffs after last night. But two people that chose to stay in Cleveland. We don't get that a lot up here, so very, very grateful for that, I will say.
Yeah, that's fair. And another guy that's on Cleveland and Cincinnati, and a guy that's trying to make a comeback, is the Tyler Naquin as a pitcher. Is he's in the minor league system for you guys, right? Like, how's that working out for him?
Yeah, he's all the way out in Arizona, so he's starting at the rookie league level. He's just kind of I think he's made 2 appearances so far. The first one, he was not good. The first one was like, I think he had 2 walks. He balked twice. And he got hit around. It was not good. Second outing was much better. He had, I think, 1 scoreless inning and a strikeout. But really for him, he's at the foundational level. Like, he is going back to basically being a draft pick again. Like, he's got to go out and, do arm care routines and bullpens and building up his arm and all those things. So like, he's really starting at the basement level of pitching and trying to build himself up. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if he'll get somewhere to an affiliate this year, but he throws hard. He's always had a good arm. You guys saw that in Cincinnati, like, great arm. So not a surprise that he would try pitching. It was definitely a very interesting announcement when it happened, but the arm's there. Like, he throws, I think, 90 to 95, and he's had a decent fastball in terms of velocity. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, he's kind of just still laying the foundation to build up to be a pitcher for the first time in his life, at least at the pro level.
Yeah. Can't be any worse. I don't know what the Joey Gallo situation is, but I don't think it's much better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Joey Gallo. But those guys are all good athletes, though, so it's worth trying. Like, you just never know if you're a good athlete, and it's so hard though. Like, throwing from the outfield and pitching are so different mechanically. So to find like your natural arm path and the mechanics and learning all the right way to do that kind of thing is a lot different. So it's a challenge, but they're good athletes, so it's worth a shot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Back in 2012, Cleveland went out and they got Terry Francona, and it was kind of a big deal. He comes off 2 World Series with Boston and just has a phenomenal run with you guys. You guys constantly making the playoffs, 90-win teams, American League Championship appearances, a World Series appearance, and like George in the chat says, had the rain delay not happen, you win that game. And
maybe
now he's in Cincinnati. He played for the Reds for 1 year, so it's kind of like a coming home. Kind of, he comes out of retirement, and to start the season, he's 50 games away from 2,000 wins. And how was it? Did you have any like Francona experiences? And what was your thoughts on him as a manager? And how different was he from Eric Wedge and Manny Acta, and then now with Stephen Vogt?
Yeah, they had some good years with Eric Wedge, but they were few and far between. In the Manny Acta era, I mean, that was just an abject disaster. I'm not going to lay all the blame at the feet of Manny Acta for the time when he was here. They weren't very good, But they had a lot of organizational failures. They didn't draft well, and this is a team that doesn't sign a lot of free agents. So they just didn't draft well. You can't put bad players into your system that are not good and expect the manager to turn ground beef into filet mignon or whatever. You got to give the cooks the proper ingredients. They weren't doing that at the time. But Terry Francona coming here was literally a franchise changer. I mean, this is as consistently good as they have been since the 90s. Now, obviously, the 90s were a very special time and going to be very hard to repeat for any franchise that's not the Dodgers, basically, or the Yankees. But even they're not, reaching that level of success right now. But yeah, it's been the most consistent winner they've had since the 90s. They had some good teams, with, like I said, with Eric Wedge, but they didn't really sustain it. This is the longest sustaining they've had. I don't have a ton of Francona stories. I really do stick to covering the minors. I've covered a couple major league games in his time. Very interesting to deal with in the media. He doesn't mind talking. He's definitely someone who likes to have a conversation once he gets to know you and will go off about anything. The stories are hilarious. Like, all the stories about, 2016 in the World Series about him ordering room service ice cream, like hundreds of dollars worth, and waking up to sitting on his remote, thought he dreamed that he was being like stabbed or something, I think. And, he talked about losing a tooth, I think, in spring training and all that kind of stuff. Like, the stories there are always good. He's very good at building a culture and kind of being a disarming figure in terms of lightening the mood, all those kind of things. And he's a guy who does say he appreciates tough questions. He obviously got a lot of them in Boston. He will snap back sometimes. Like if you ask a question he doesn't like, and not just the fact he doesn't like it, but in terms of I don't want to say intelligence, but like, what's the right word here? If it's not if he doesn't view it as if he views it kind of I don't want to say not even attacking, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. There were times where people asked him about, why'd you pinch hit this guy instead of this guy? And he was a little bit curt in his explanation sometimes. There was a guy here in Cleveland, actually, I forget who it was, who was covering the team. It wasn't a full-time, baseball reporter, but there was a press conference before a game, and the person called him coach. And he's like, I don't think you covered baseball because I'm not coach. You don't call a manager coach. Like, that's just a baseball thing. And was not afraid to point that out. So you get a little bit of that. Like, you get the good stories from him. He's a great storyteller. He sure got a lot of them, and he's very good at using it to be disarming and to really bring the level down of things and put you on the same level. You always appreciate that. Stephen Vogt's very similar too. He's very humble. I think communication's a big thing for him too, because I think what you've seen in baseball, how managerial positions have evolved, is it's really about building that clubhouse culture and trying to, you're trying to set the culture, set the work ethic, set the tone. And it's really about managing people. It's not necessarily the game itself. I mean, there are a couple levers you pull during the game that can affect it. The right matchups, how long to leave a pitcher in, when to take them out, certain relievers. Those things can influence the game. But really what you're trying to do is build the stuff behind the scenes. And that's where Stephen Vogt, I think, has a lot of Terry Francona in him. I think the behind the scenes stuff is where they match up very well. But I couldn't believe it the day they said that Tito was coming to Cleveland in 2012. I could not believe it. I did not think someone of his caliber would ever manage in Cleveland. We all thought it was going to be Sandy Alomar. Not that's not a dig at Sandy Alomar. It just seemed like that was the way things were going to go. Like, it just seemed like a natural progression, and he wanted it. He was a lifelong Cleveland player, all that kind of stuff. So I was stunned when Tito came to Cleveland, and it was such a great thing for this franchise, and really kicked off a good run of success that they've been able to mostly, maintain, some ups, some down, but pretty steady overall. And it's made baseball a lot more fun in Cleveland, and I will say I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I was what you were saying about Tito. There was a game the Reds played in Miami, and third baseman Noelvi Marte hit a home run like 116 miles an hour off the bat. And one of the reporters asked him after the game, they were like, Marte hit the ball 116 miles an hour. What are your thoughts? He goes, there's only one run. And I was like, that, what an answer.
Yeah, that's Tito for you. I mean, don't let him fool you. Like, I was saying he doesn't like the analytics, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think he's evolved a lot in that way of how he manages. Like, there are certain things to care about, but yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, it was just one run, and if it gets over the fence, it gets over the fence. You don't get extra points for exit velocity. There's a certain number, hitting the ball hard is never a bad thing, but at the end of the day, like, it only accounts for one hit at a time and all those kind of things. So yeah, those are kind of things you'll get from Tito. He's still very old school in that way, and that's not a bad thing, but I think he's learned to have a good blend of all that. He's definitely grown, I would say, in that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. He seems to have that folksy charm to charm all the media down here was really on David Bell's butt, for lack of a better word. Like, they did not like his answers. They didn't like how he was kind of robotic and all that. And they can't get enough of Francona's answers. It feels like it's almost like a complete 180 in terms of the media coverage down here. And he gives the folksy answer of the baseball guy, just, like Ricky said, that kind of story and some others. But he seems to kind of have a good grasp on, like, telling the fans and the media kind of not to say what they want to hear, but like the baseball guy answer, right? And then you'll have a situation where there's stuff talking about, like, they do focus on certain analytics and different analytics, stuff like that. So I think you're right, the blend there, and that's probably why he's been so successful, as kind of an old school guy in the modern era. So I don't know, we were just as surprised, like you said, like you were in 2012. We were just as surprised in 2024 to be like, you chose Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Are we reading this right? Kind of thing. So I don't know.
Man. I was surprised to hear it too. I thought he was retired. I really did, but I guess I should have known better, because Tito is a baseball lifer, and he just can't stay away, and that's not really a surprise. So I shouldn't have been as surprised I was. Maybe I thought he'd wait another year, but he seemed like he was back to good health, and good for him, because the health wasn't good at the end there for Cleveland. But yeah, he's always good with those stories. He's like I said, very disarming and self-deprecating. He can tell a good story, and I think also he appreciates that how tough the media was in Boston when he was there, that everywhere else is nowhere close to that. I remember his first year in Cleveland, they didn't have it was a Sunday where they didn't have media availability for Tito. They gave him the Sunday off, and they put in the GM or somebody else, another coach, and he was like, "Really? I'm nothing today on Sunday?" He's like, "I'll take it." Like, he was very surprised, because in Boston it's a whole lot different intensity out there. But yeah, I could see how he's very different than David Bell. Going back to that, I will say the progression of managers in Cincinnati has been interesting, because you gone from Dusty Baker to Brian Price. I was not a big fan of Brian Price, I will say. I definitely remember some of his press conferences in a not a very good way. I don't think David was all that bad, but it was his first year managing, and those things are hard to learn sometimes. So he might get another shot somewhere else and be better. I mean, certainly Tito's first go around in Philadelphia wasn't great either. Like, he had to learn too. So it's a very humbling sport, no matter if you're a player or a coach or a manager.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of humbling, it seems like that the Dodgers and the Yankees, like you had mentioned, are kind of the top of the sport, kind of the guys that are always favored to be in the World Series and or win the World Series. We talked about 2016. We talked about how the Reds have not been there in a while. Do you see a small market team, Cleveland, Cincinnati, whatever, do you see them winning the World Series in the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, I don't think that's one of those things you can really predict. Like, the Dodgers are going to be there every year, because they do spend lots of money. They have the last, them and the Yankees do have the last good TV contracts in baseball, because the TV money has really burst, unfortunately, except for some of those bigger markets. And they also combine it with really good player development. Like, I'll tell you right now, the Reds trading Mike Sirota to the Dodgers, if you're following Reds prospects, I was not a fan of that trade. Gavin Lux might be okay. He's okay. If it were me, I would not have traded a pick and Mike Sirota to the Dodgers, because I was a big fan of Mike Sirota out of the draft, and I know the Dodgers drafted him out of high school, and I was not a fan of that trade. But that's what makes the Dodgers dangerous, is they can take guys like that and really develop them well. So I wouldn't give them any more ammunition. So it's very hard. But the Padres, they should have probably went to the World Series last year. Like they had the Dodgers on the ropes and they let them off the hook. As one famous football coach once said. Yeah, it's hard to predict those things. Like, unfortunately, everything has to come together. You never know. But the thing with baseball playoffs is, like, you just got to get in. And I'm not saying it's easy and anybody can do it. You know, it's not like playing first base. But if you get hot, like, you know, the Royals won it in 2015 and they were in the World Series in 2014. It's not something that's going to happen every year. So I don't know. I really couldn't predict Cleveland or the Reds winning the World Series in the next 5 years. Just because the landscape of baseball could really change. Like, you got the lockout that's probably coming after 2026, and I don't know what's on the other side of that and what the rosters will look like. Cleveland's got an okay farm system. It's not great. The Reds have a okay farm system. It's not great. Having a great farm system is good, but you got to use it the right ways. You got to graduate the right players and you got to trade the right guys and supplement your major league roster with the trades. But unfortunately, it seems like the Red Sox, they have a great farm system and they don't really spend like they used to either, which is really strange. But, you know, it could always happen. Like I said, you just got to get in. And there's a lot more playoff teams in baseball because of the expanded playoffs. You know, I didn't think the Tigers were going to get in last year. And then I certainly didn't think they were going to beat the Astros. And I certainly didn't think they were going to push Cleveland to 5 games in the LDS, but they did. And they're good again this year. So you just never know. Those things can happen. So it all depends on how you build. I mean, a small market could win a World Series the next 5 years. They just have to find the right combination at the right time. Unfortunately, when you have teams like the Dodgers and all that stuff, like they're going to be there perennial. They're going to be in the conversation perennial. And you talk about Cleveland and the Reds, and it's like, well, things have to go right for them to be there. It's an unfortunate state of things. So it's baseball is hard to predict, which is both good and bad.
Yeah, I know one small market team that's not going to really take off is the Chicago White Sox, but sadly they are beating the Cincinnati Reds 3-0 in the top of the 7th. Probably going to get swept, honestly, if I had to say it. But
that's not good. It's not the Rockies.
Yeah. No, yeah. We have an upcoming series against Cleveland. It's I think it's a rare 3-game series both times this year. I couldn't tell you the last time it was a 3-game series. What are your thoughts on the upcoming series? Who do you like? I guess you're gonna be a homer. We're gonna be a homer. But like, what are your takes on the series coming up? Just overall.
Yeah, Cleveland's playing a lot better at the moment. They finally scored some runs this week. Jose Ramirez is starting to get really hot. He had a home run 2 of the last 3 games against the Brewers, so that's good. Stole a lot of bases against the Brewers, so he's kind of tearing things up right now. He was kind of it wasn't cold, but he was just kind of, you know, middling along for Jose Ramirez anyway, not like anybody else, but he's starting to get hot. The pitching staff has been getting better. They just had their best turn through the rotation this year, probably the last couple of years, to be honest with you. It was their best trip through the rotation. Unfortunately, we don't know who's going to start Saturday. I don't even know who's going to start Sunday. You guys get Tanner Bivey on Friday. I know he's, you know, Cleveland's ace and pitched pretty well against the Reds last year, except for 2 pitches to Jeimer Candelario, who I understand is not doing all that great. So maybe that won't be an issue for Tanner this year. Playing in that ballpark's always hard though. Like Cleveland, you know, Tanner has had home run issues this year. So I don't love that for playing in that ballpark. The rotation's kind of unsettled for the weekend. So we'll see what happens. Cause Ben Lively, who you guys might be a little familiar with from his time in Cincinnati, he just went on the injured list with forearm inflammation. So he won't be pitching this weekend. So, and I know, you know, Hunter Green's out for you guys. So this weekend of pitching matchups is totally up in the air. I think Andrew Abbott right now is the only confirmed starter that we have for the weekend series. And Abbott's been good this year. I've always been a big fan of his. When he throws strikes, he's really good. And I know that Reds offense can be up and down. You got guys in the lineup who can hit, but they all don't hit at the same time. It'll be very interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens. You know, I know he won't like it. Let's be honest. We know he won't like it, but there's going to be a lot of stories about Francona on both sides, like talking about playing his old team. So he hates to be the focus of any of the stories. He's going to deflect. He's going to say, well, it's about the players, but hey, the Ohio Cup matters. Okay. It's one of the few regular season matchups in baseball where there's a trophy given out. I don't know what other baseball matchups in the regular season are they giving out a trophy besides like the home run derby or hardwares after the season? So it's one of the few baseball series you can give out an actual trophy for, and it's one of the few trophies Cleveland actually gets to retain almost every year. So we're taking it seriously, okay? We always take the Ohio Cup seriously up here.
Yeah, I think the Cubs and the White Sox have a crosstown cup, but that might have been like the last year or so. So it's not a historical cup or whatever.
And that's the closest the White Sox are going to get to winning anything in a long time. So if they even win, which they're probably not. Yeah. Well, I mean, just any kind of material trophy. But yeah, that's not great. You're losing to the White Sox. That's not great.
Yeah, there was that meme going around when you guys won the final series last year that Cincinnati's in Kentucky, and it was all the players in the in the clubhouse like popping champagne with the trophy. It was like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think up in Cleveland are you guys a Cincinnati's in Kentucky guy thing?
We do make a lot of jokes, I will say. Whenever I'm on our Reds podcast on lockdown, we always make that joke. We did it on our squad show last week. It was funny because the two Reds guys I was talking with, they were like, well, there's no more excuse for bad weather. It's May and the bad weather's out of here. I'm like, this is spoken from a guy who definitely doesn't live in Cincinnati and he doesn't. But I was like, the weather in Cincinnati and the weather in Cleveland in May are very different. Let me tell you, the weather in Cleveland is still somewhat chilly and rainy up until June. So I don't know what you're talking about there in terms of weather. No, I'll say like the Cincinnati, Kentucky thing is always funny, but the one thing I can always go back to more than that, as far as what I'll pick on Cincinnati for, is Skyline chili. I hate Skyline chili. It's awful. I will accept Cincinnati as being in Ohio before I ever accept Skyline chili as being good. One of the worst food experiences I've ever had in my life. Unfortunately,
you haven't tried Gold
hopefully
Star
you guys
chili.
aren't.
You gotta try Gold Star chili. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you guys don't have Skyline as a sponsor or not trying to reach out to them, and don't send them this episode. But
clip it.
Yeah, like we're not working with them. This guy just disintegrated our whole product. Yeah.
No harm done. And Skyline usually gives my kids and my wife, stomach issues. So it's like we understand.
Yeah.
Where you're coming from.
And it's expensive too. I mean, you go there for. I have a family of 4. It's like $55. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, for not good food. Wow.
It's funny because there's like a competition between all the chilies that are around here. Like there's Skyline chili, Gold Star chili, Camp Washington chili, Empress chili, and they all have like their own little flavor. Like Skyline has like a cinnamon flavor, and Gold Star has more of like a cocoa to theirs. So it almost tastes like a more traditional chili as opposed to Skyline. And Skyline's like really greasy too. So there's differences. If you're in the area, you got to try the other ones. Don't just Skyline's kind of like the popular one, just like everyone knows about it because it's got the logo of the Cincinnati Skyline or whatever. But the other ones, they're not. I think they're better.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was such a big market and tradition for chili in Cincinnati. I just thought it was Skyline. I didn't realize there was like a whole market for that down there. But okay, Cincinnati known for chili.
It's a whole thing. We're trying to get Grater's ice cream kind of back on the map as the Grater's Cincinnati, like what we're known for. Because when everybody brings up Cincinnati and food, they often go to the chili route, and that's just not necessarily. It's not, you don't want to put that face forward all the time.
Don't you have, what is it, Montgomery Barbecue? Montgomery
Inn? Yeah.
Yeah. They've got they don't sell in Cleveland's ballpark the actual food, but they're an advertiser of their sauce, and they've had their sauce, and it's really good. I can't believe they don't actually have like a stand in the ballpark, because they are like, I know they do ads on the games, but I know our radio announcer talks them up all the time and says Montgomery Barbecue is always the best. So they get a little love in Cleveland, I know, from Tom Hamilton.
Yeah, I think Great American we have a stand, right, Ricky? Come down to Cleveland.
Yeah, Montgomery Inn. Yeah,
come to Great American. You can have some Montgomery Inn barbecue. So,
I haven't been to that ballpark yet. I want to get there one day. I've heard it's a great looking ballpark in terms of, I know it's a bandbox in terms of the dimensions, but I've always heard it looks like a great one on TV. So I'm hoping to get down there one of these years. We were hoping actually to do it this year. I don't know if it's going to work out for this weekend, but we'll see. Like you said, first time in a long time. It's been on a weekend and a 3-game series. I feel like it's always been midweek 2-2. So it's nice to have it back in kind of a full slate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
if you ever decide to come down, shoot us a DM. We'll give you some good places to sit. If you want a nice viewing area, or if you want, like a concourse area, I think the best viewing area, like if you're okay with sitting like higher up, like up in like the 400s above home plate, is like you see the whole entire ballpark, and you get the river in the background, like over the boat, and you get the city of Covington over the river. That's a good view. And then like a ballpark experience, if you want down by the power stacks in right field, like section 143, that's a good area too.
As long as I'm out of the sun during the day, I just can't be at a day game there in the sun.
Yeah.
I'm not a vampire, but I've heard. I've been to Pittsburgh, and I know it gets hot out there in the summer in the sun, and I've heard the same in Cincinnati. So I just got to find a good shady place. That's about the only place only recommendation I'll be looking for.
Yeah, day games, you'll get people that like leave their like behind the plate seats and go up into the shade sometime for those day games because they're just burning in the sun, like you said. So
yeah, looks like it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, anything else, Scott, Rick?
No, I just wanted to thank you for your time. We really appreciate you coming on and talking baseball with us. It's been cool. I was looking at some of your work. I caught a couple of Locked On episodes this afternoon, just kind of get a feel for you. And I like your guys' stuff. You guys really have a good chemistry with what you're doing.
Yeah, like I said, we've been friends before we even started doing the podcast together, and he was the original host of the show. And just funny how got recruited, and he knew me, and it was like, wow, you should have asked if you were looking for somebody. So yeah, it's worked out really good. Jeff's a good guy, and enjoy talking baseball. I'd like talking baseball with anybody. I love baseball, and anybody who loves baseball is better to talk to. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and hit me up anytime. Talk baseball. I love talking ball.
All right. Appreciate you so much, Justin. Check his stuff out on Substack and Next Year in Cleveland, and also at the News Herald, Morning Journal, and Locked On Guardians, and YouTube and podcast forum. So check them out. Really appreciate your time, and I got to tape your show too now, so you're going to talk a little bit more baseball. So
yeah, darn, I hate that. So terrible. No, so lucky, and I definitely love talking with you guys. You guys seem like good baseball fans and good people. So this is a lot of fun, and yeah, would love to do it again sometime.
All right. We appreciate it. Thank you again. And thank you, Ricky, for handling all the stuff behind the scenes. We usually sign off by saying good night and go
Go Reds. You can hit us with the Go Guardians if you want.
Yeah, that's our signature walk off on there is go Guardians go. So yeah, we'll say go Guardians go, I guess.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.